All right, let's take a look at all the operations, so addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division with integers, but we'll start with addition. So here's an example, 5 plus -5, and I want to show it to you using two visual tools. This first one's going to be the number line, and then this one over here, I'm calling it the positive negative line. I don't know, but let's look at the number line one first. So when we use the number line, we always start at 0 to begin with, and then we'll go to the first number in our problem. So I'm going to jump over to 5. And then I'm going to add a -5. So if I'm adding a negative number, that's like going backwards. If we're adding negativity into a room or something, we're subtracting the positivity out of it. So I'm going to go backwards by 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So I end up back at 0. So this is worth noting that if the numbers are the same, but the signs are different and we're adding, we're going to get 0. So for example, if I had 10 plus -10, well, that's 0. If I had negative, let's say -6 plus 6, well, that's 0. They kind of cancel each other out. I can show this another visual way over here on the right. Let's say I have 5 positive circles, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which represents this 5 over here. And then I have 5 negatives, and that's going to represent that -5 there. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, you can see that each positive circle cancels out with a negative one. So we can cancel those two, we can cancel those two, those, and we got nothing left. So we're left with 0. So 5 plus -5 is 0. There's two visual aids that help illustrate this. And we'll use these for a couple other examples here. So let's look at -9 plus -1. So again, going with the number line, we start at 0, and we're going to jump all the way over to -9. And then we're going to add a -1. So we're adding a negative, so our answer is going to become more negative. We're going further to the left. And I'm just going to jump over one more space and get -10. So -10 is our answer. If we wanted to use this positive negative line divider thing here, well, I have 9 negatives. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then I have an additional 1 negative, which I'll add there. And that gives me 10 circles here. And since they're in the negative zone, it's going to be -10. All right, another example. 8 plus -2. So again, I'm going to start at 0 on the number line. And then I'm going to go all the way to the right to +8. And then we will add a -2. So I'm going to go backwards 1, 2, and get 6 there. So 6 is our answer. So it looks like adding a negative is just like subtracting a positive. And if we use this this dividing line thing over here, well, I have 8 positives. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I have 2 negatives. 1, 2. And I can cancel those out. So cancel those two, cancel those two. And what I'm left with is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 positives. So hopefully this is starting to make some sense. Let's do one more like that just to drive the point home. So with the number line, we start at 0. We're going to jump to 4. And then we're going to go backwards 7 because it's a -7. If it was +7, we would go to the right 7 times. But since it's negative and we're adding it, we're going to go to the left 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we get -3. If I were to use this tool on the right, I would have 4 positive numbers and 7 negative numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And if I cancel them out, I have 3 numbers left on the negative side, so I'll have -3 as my answer as well. So lots of different ways to visually represent this, and hopefully this makes some sense. But we don't want to be drawing number lines and these weird dividing line things over here. That takes up too much time, and we have better things to do with our time. So here's 2 rules that you can use, and we'll look at some examples as well. So the first rule is that if the numbers have the same signs, just add the numbers and keep the sign the same. So what this would look like is if we added 2 positive numbers, like this, a positive number plus another positive number, what we'll get is we'll get a positive number, right? If they have the same signs, if the 2 numbers have the same signs, we're just going to add the numbers, but we're going to keep the sign the same. So our answer is going to match whatever the signs of the 2 numbers that we're adding have. Same thing if they were both negative. If I have a negative number plus a negative number, my answer is going to be a negative number. Again, keep the sign the same in our answer, and it's whatever signs we had from the 2 numbers we were adding to begin with. If our numbers have different signs, so let's say I have a really big positive number and I'm adding a smaller negative number, well, my answer, what we'll do is when we actually introduce some numbers, we're just going to subtract the numbers, but since we don't have numbers here, what we're going to do is we're going to keep the sign of the larger number. So if, in this case, our larger number is positive, well, our answer is going to be a positive number. And if I were to swap it around and say, hey, I have a really big negative number, and I'm adding to it a smaller positive number, well, I'll just subtract the numbers, whatever they are, and I'm going to keep the sign of the larger number, which in this case is negative. So I'll have a negative number as my answer. So let's apply these rules to a few examples here. All right, so 10 plus 7. Well, both of those numbers are positive. So I'm just going to add the numbers. So 10 plus 7 is 17, and keep the sign the same. So 10 was positive, 7 was positive, so 17 is going to be positive. All right, down here, -8 plus -8. Again, our 2 numbers have the same signs. They're both negatives. So my answer is going to be negative. And now all I do is just add the numbers. 8 plus 8 is 16. So I'm going to have -16 as my answer. Up here, -20 plus 3. These have different signs. So again, if numbers have different signs, we subtract the numbers and keep the sign of the larger number. So I'll go ahead and pick my sign. Well, 20 is definitely larger than 3, and so we'll take that negative and put that in our answer. And then I'm going to do 20 minus 3, which is 17. So my answer is going to be -17. Here, 11 plus -12, our signs are different. So I'll subtract the numbers. 12 minus 11 is 1. So 1 is going to be my answer, but to figure out which sign, is it going to be a positive one or a negative one? Well, 12 is larger than 11, and 12 has a negative sign, so my answer is going to have a negative sign.